This video is going to introduce you to the text search query within NVivo. I'm demonstrating this in the Environmental Change Down East sample project. You can access queries by clicking on the query ribbon, and here you'll see there is the option for the text search query. If I click on this, down here it's going to open a new little pane for me with lots of options for this query. You'll notice that the first thing that you've got is an option of where you want to search. So you can search for the text in all of your sources, so everything within the project, or alternatively you can just click on selected items. If you have a small project with just your interviews, you can probably just leave this at all sources. However, if you want to specify where you want to search, or you have different types of interview, then you can just select certain items. An example of this could be that you're interviewing both managers and employees and you just want to search for text within what the employees have said. Another thing that you can do is, instead of searching your sources, you can search your cases. If you've not seen the cases video, cases are essentially your units of measurement. So you could have, for example, a case for each individual that you have interviewed. In doing so, you would allocate all of the responses from those participants in that interview to their responding case. So for example, everything that Charles said in Charles's interview, you would code at the case of Charles. For the query purpose, this means that when we're searching our queries, we would not be searching the whole interview transcript, we'd only be searching their answers. This means that it won't find any results in the query for your questions themselves. So to do that, I'd go to selected items, I would go to cases, and then in this case and in the sample project I will have to open up the cases folder and go to people. So I'm just going to tick this button here to tick all of the interview participants. So for this query I'm just searching what my interviewees have said. Next up, I need to specify the search term that I'm looking for. So as this is Environmental Change Down East, I'm just going to search for the word fish. At this point I can run the query and it's going to give me a summary of the results. So here I have a list of the people who have said the word fish, and then how many times they've said it. If I click on references here, it's going to numerically order them by who said it the most to who said it the least. If I click on references down the side, what this will do is it will give me every time they've said the word fish and a few words either side so I can get the context. At any point I can click on one of the blue links here, it'll take me to the full interview, highlight the word, and I can look at it in the wider context of the interview. Next down you'll find a number of tabs, and that will depend on the kind of sources that it's found this word in. So here I can see it's found it in text sources and data sets, but it could be that it will appear in other source types depending on what you've added to the project and where the query result appears. If you click on text, it will basically give me a list of all the text that it's appeared in. I can click on them and it will give me all the references to that text beneath. Very similar with the data set. If I click on that, it'll show me the data sets it's appeared in, and then it'll show me the references beneath. The final one, and in my opinion the most exciting result that you get from this, is the word tree. Now the word tree will show me everything that has appeared before the word I've searched for and everything that has appeared after the word I've searched for. If at any point I want to follow this through, I can just click on a word and it will highlight in blue what I would need to read to follow the sentence. In this case, I don't know how many fish there were, but if you. And once again, I could double click on this and it'd take me to the interview with the full source. Now, this is the very basis of the text search query, but there's actually a lot of cool things that I can do with this. So if I spread the coding to the narrow context and rerun my query, what this will do when I go to my references is it will bring in the word fish and it will bring in the words either side of it, but this time it's actually included them within the query itself. So you can see they're no longer grayed out anymore. These are actually in the query. And this is useful because I can actually save these results. So if I go up to the top and save them, you'll see I can not just save them in results, but I can save them in nodes. So essentially where my themes are. So if I name this as fish and create the results as a new node, this is a way of automatically coding one of my themes. So now that I've done this process, once NVivo has loaded, I can go to my nodes, and you'll see in the nodes there's a whole list of them, just as before, but fish has appeared there. It's automatically opened it for me anyway, but essentially all of the text here is now automatically under that theme. So this is a very quick way of automating your coding. If every time a certain word appears, you want it in a certain theme, you can do that with this process. Now if I close this down, I've closed the query, but to re-access it, I can go to query, and I can go to last run query, and it's just going to bring me up to exactly where I was before. If I take the coding spreading off and put it back to none again and run my query, this will get me to just how it looked before. One thing you'll notice down the side here is that under the word find, there's a number of options. This uses NVivo's contextual dictionary to find synonyms, stems, generalizations, and specializations of any of the words that you've searched for. So in this case, the word fish is only looking for matches to the word fish. If I move that down to the word stemmed, it would include words like fishing and fished. So if I run this query now, you'll see the references are much more numerous, and if I go through to the individual references, I can get a feel for the kinds of words that are coming up. So you'll see fishing, fish again, and that looks like the two words that we've got that have come up. We still get the same word tree, but this time there's one option that we need to bear in mind. At the top left, you'll notice there's another contextual ribbon for word tree, and I can change the root term from fish to fishing, or from fishing to fishes. So I can switch which word appears in the middle. Now if I go back to fishing, this does demonstrate something quite useful. You'll notice that the more terms that appear before one of the branches in the tree, the bigger the word. And so if I zoom out using the options down here, you can very quickly start to spot some themes. So I can see quite often when people are talking about fishing, they're talking about it in the context of commercial fishing. So this can look for where words are associated and might help you understand things in a bit more detail. If I go back to this option at the top here, you'll see I can go down to synonyms, and if I run the query again, wait for the results to come through, and once again I can go to the drop down menu and see whatever other terms have appeared. The further down here we go, the more potential there is for this to go away from what we've been searching. So these are cumulative. When I'm looking at synonyms, that isn't just synonyms of fish, but it's also synonyms of the other stems included from the level above. So at this level, the word fish is joined by fishing. So when I go to this level, I'm looking at synonyms of both fish and fishing. So a synonym of fishing would be catch or trawl, perhaps. So it's actually going away from my original search term potentially. While this is a very useful tool, you've just got to bear in mind what other words it's going to bring in when you're doing that. So if I go right the way back up to my exact matches, the final thing that's worth pointing out with this query is that you can use Boolean logic. So this is all accessed through this special menu here. So I could look for things like fish and houses. And what this will do is it will only find sources where those two terms occur together. So it can be very, very useful for you to construct quite complicated queries as part of this. Once again, the text search query is one of the most useful when you're exploring a particular term within NVivo. In this case, if this query was useful, I could not just save the results, but I could actually add the query to the project. So if I do that, It's going to open up a new menu option for me here, and I'm able to name this. So if I call this fish houses and click OK, that means the query is permanently saved in the project. So if I close this, or if I close the whole project, it means that I can access that same query again by going into queries and then double clicking on fish houses, and the query is there for me to revisit at any point.